The whole, the whole, the whole world looked upon Egypt at the beginning of the year with excitement as Egyptians appeared to reclaim their nation, looking towards a more promising future of unity and a collaborative effort for their homelands. Only weeks later, however, the idealistic claims started to fade, and there were attacks on the unprecedented scale against church and Christians in Egypt. For the first time, we saw churches burned and demolished, with the army looking to do nothing. Christians lost their lives, while those who had promised to protest Egyptian looked on. Since then, we have had an escalation of violence from Imba Afif to Aswan, along with the terrorist bombing of a church in Alexandria earlier this year. The common denominator in all these and every other attack for the past decades that there have been insufficient official investigation and an absence of persecution and convictions. This last week, however, saw a new and even more dramatic turn, a peaceful rally, leaving the Cairo suburb of Shobra and heading to the Maspero division center, traveling approximately 10 kilometers very peacefully and without incident. Bar some stones and rocks being hurled at them at one point. According to a report from the organizers, there were some 60,000 people there. Men, women, children, young, old, complete families marching in an orderly manner. Once the march entered into the Maspero area, however, there was a sudden escalation, with moments in the army used excessive lethal force against these peaceful demonstrators. The same army that said in January that it would not fight a single shot against an Egyptian citizen, and stood by and watched churches burned and Christians killed because it was not in a position to intervene, now used live ammunition and excessive force in this situation, firing lethal shots to the chest and the head, while armed excessive force in this situation, firing lethal shots. Top carriers were driven directly into crowds. Even the premature and the unsustained accusations by the military that the shots were fired from amongst demonstrators would by no means warrant this level of reaction and retaliation used by army soldiers. While these facts speak for themselves, the following must be noted and investigated. Number one, the escalation of the unrest in Egypt has been caused by the numerous and until now unresolved attacks on churches and Christians, and these must be investigated and the perpetrators prosecuted for the situation. Number two, use of excessive and lethal force by the military must be investigated by the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, bearing in mind that there have been tens of protests and demonstrations by various groups over the past months that have not been met by this level of reaction to date. Number three, the press conference conducted by SCAF has caused outrage with allegations to no shots were fired by military and that armored troops carriers were not intentionally driven into demonstrators, asking people to be sympathetic and frightened soldiers. Even if there was no intent, the drivers of those vehicles have indeed caused death and thus must be prosecuted. Furthermore, none of the footage of that incident shows any demonstrators carrying firearms, swords, or Molotov cocktails as alleged. Lastly, the irresponsible reporting by state media on the day of the Maspero incident must be investigated. There were major infringements, including the making premature, inflammatory, and unsustained claims, and Christians have been firing shots at the military, reporting derogatory and inflammatory claims, expressing disgust at disloyal prosecutors, attacking the army, and publicly televising insults, profanities against Christians and Christianity. Persecution is nothing new for Christianity, and especially for Egyptian Christians. Persecution and the martyrs have been an integral part of identity, the establishment of our Coptic Church in the 1st century. We have confidence in God and His powerful, merciful, and victorious, who maintains His promises and who seeks upon His whole creation. If indeed we walk in His way, this is why we do not fear for Christians or Christianity in Egypt. Egypt has been and is and will continue to be a place in which the Christians witness their faith on a day-to-day basis. We do, however, fear for Egypt, because it is Egypt that will weaken if Egyptians do not stand together. and if this unhealthy separation and discrimination continues. Within these days of fast, called by the Coptic Orthodox Church for Egypt, we pray to God, confident that the solution is in hand, and that His name be glorified and exalted above. Signed, Bishop Angelos, General Bishop of the Coptic Orthodox Church in the United Kingdom.